In the first of 4 repêchages, we have Hunter Valley Grammar School over in lane 3, represented by Isaac Shepherd, currently sitting in 3rd place. Rob Wetherall from Maitland Grossman is in lane 3. Tal Lewis, who's currently leading, he's from Sydney Secondary College. He's in lane 4. In lane 5, the sculler currently sitting in 2nd position, Nick Blackman from Pembroke School of South Australia. The sculler in lane 6 has scratched. That's Ben Sims from Trinity Lutheran. Then in lane 7, Tom Messer from Guildford of Tasmania. And in lane 8, Ryan Barber of Shalom.
So repechage 1 of 4 in the schoolboys single scull. Slightly smaller field of entries in this race, so only 4 repechages required, but it's cutthroat racing. 1st and 2nd only, in fact 5 repechages I should say, as we look over the next page of the program, but 5 in total, and top 2 from each only to move through to the semi-final and stay alive in the race for the A final and the medals. And Nick Blackman, the sculler from the Pembroke School in South Australia, of course, has taken the lead over the 3rd 500 metres, moving up with just half a second advantage over Tal Lewis of the Sydney Secondary College, lane 4 in 2nd place. It was half a second at least with 500 to race. It's probably a little more than that now, out to getting close to the best part of probably 2/3 or so of a length. But Nick Blackman, coached by Simon Lane and Darren Potts, and Tal Lewis, coached by Donovan Seck, Jason Baker and Lachlan Carter, look to be very comfortably our only two qualifiers here from this field of 6 in the first repechage of the schoolboys single scull. And Nick Blackman's going away now. He's taking clear water. All of a sudden, the Pembroke School sculler really powering home, as if to make a point that he is going to win this repechage, or not just win, but really demolish the field here in the closing strokes. And Nick Blackman doing exactly that. But along with Tal Lewis, he'll move through to the semi-finals. Then the sculler on the far side, Isaac Shepherd from Hunter Valley Grammar, probably 3rd ahead of Tom Messer from Guildford. But lane 5 goes across and gets the win. Nick Blackman from the Pembroke School, and 2nd place Tal Lewis from the Sydney Secondary College. Those 2 through to the semi-finals. And the remainder of the field will still race again, but out of contention now for the A final, unfortunately. Lane 2, Hunter Valley Grammar, Isaac Shepherd is 3rd home. Lane 7 will be 4th, Tom Messer from Guildford in Tasmania. And a really good race for 5th and 6th place between Shalom's Ryan Barber and Maitland Grossman's Robert Wetherall over on the far side. And it might just be Wetherall getting home. It is. Maitland Grossman get 5th and Shalom 6th in the first of 5 repechages in the schoolboys single scull.
And the time for that race was 7 minutes 40.24. The margin 5.48 between the winner Nick Blackman of Pembroke School, South Australia, and Tal Lewis of Sydney Secondary College. Those 2 scullers progressed through to the semi-final. In 3rd, Hunter Valley Grammar School's Isaac Shepherd. In 4th, representing Guildford of Tasmania, Tom Messer. In 5th, Maitland Grossman, Robert Wetherall. And in 6th, Shalom, Ryan Barber. Our second repechage of the schoolboys single scull is now in progress. In first position at the halfway mark is Benjamin Birchall from Brisbane State High. Lachlan Wilmot is beside him in lane 4. He's representing Gippsland Grammar School. James Andrewartha of St Peter's College on the other side of Benjamin Birchall is sitting in 3rd position. In 4th, Harvey Rupp of Wesley College. In 5th, Xavier Barnett of Mercedes College. In 6th, Joseph Black of St Luke's Anglican. In 7th, Cairo Congerton of Wesley College. And in 8th, at the moment, Jack Sheriff of Applecross High. So Jack Sheriff is across on the far side in lane 1.
So a full field of 8 in this second repechage of the schoolboys single scull race 345. as we move into fairly late racing on day 5 of the 2018 Aon Sydney International Rowing Regatta. And it continues to be Benjamin Birchall, Lee Sculler from Brisbane State High School in lane 5, who leads this race. 3.5 seconds he had at the 1,000-metre mark. Well, I think we'll shortly get confirmation he's extended that to a bit more of a lead over Gippsland Grammar's Lachlan Wilmot, who's probably just second, with St Peter's James Andrewartha thereabouts as well. So the race between Wilmot and Andrewartha will be interesting to watch as they come down this final 500 metres, but certainly Benjamin Birchall well in front for State High. He's got over 2 lengths now, in fact, in 5:43.16 the time for the Brisbane State High School sculler. Gippsland Grammar still second and St Peter's third, but 0.83 of a second. So a lot to race for there, with the top 2 only to move through to the A and B semi-finals of the schoolboys single scull. Benjamin Birchall first, Lachlan Wilmot just second, James Andrewartha is third, then 10 or so seconds back to Xavier Barnett. He's sculler from Mercedes College in Adelaide on lane 8. Joseph Black is next. He's from St Luke's Anglican School in Bundaberg, lane 3. Then Harvey Rupp from Wesley, and Cairo Congerton also from Wesley. The 2 Wesley scullers sitting 6th and 7th at this stage of the race. And also Jack Sheriff, coached by Tom Gaddy at Applecross High, across in lane 1 on the far side of the Sydney International Regatta Centre. But at the head of the field, it is Benjamin Birchall of Brisbane State High School, coached by Andrew Clatworthy and Desmond Jacobson, who leads. And the race behind him is moving decisively to the advantage, I would think, of James Andrewartha of St Peter's College in Adelaide. He's coached by Darren Potts and Ron Mobbs, and now leads Gippsland Grammar's Lachlan Wilmot by a bit over a length, it would seem. Wilmot coached by Peter Campbell at Gippsland Grammar in Victoria. Fair gap back behind him to Xavier Barnett of Mercedes College on this side of the course, but it's the top 2 only who will go through. And James Andrewartha of St Peter's, not just content with moving from 3rd up to 2nd, is having a go at our race leader here in the closing strokes. And Benjamin Birchall, all of a sudden, who was hoping to cruise to the line, has had to wind up for the sprint finish. Have a look at these 2 scullers go. They'll both move through to the semis, and Benjamin Birchall from Brisbane State High School will hold off the challenge just from James Andrewartha of St Peter's, about 2/3 of a length on the line. A great race for those 2, as if their lives depended on it, but both will go through to the semi-finals and stay alive, more importantly, in the schoolboys single scull. 3rd place is lane 4. That's Gippsland Grammar's Lachlan Wilmot, who's across the line now. Another close race on the far side, although 4th will go to lane 8, Xavier Barnett from Mercedes College. 5th will be lane 2, Harvey Rupp, just ahead of Joseph Black. And then a couple of scullers still to come home, Cairo Congerton and also Jack Sheriff.
And as our final sculler approaches the line, we can confirm the results from the 2nd repechage of the schoolboys single scull. A win for Benjamin Birchall of Brisbane State High, and 2nd, James Andrewartha of St Peter's College. They will progress through to the semi-final. In 3rd position, Lachlan Wilmot of Gippsland Grammar. In 4th, Xavier Barnett of Mercedes College. In 5th, Harvey Rupp of Wesley. In 6th, Joseph Black of St Luke's Anglican. In 7th, Cairo Congerton of Wesley. And in 8th, Jack Sheriff of Applecross High. Just before we move to the next race, a reminder, we are testing out the cameras for the weekend's live stream and for the videoing. So if you are on the road closest to the grandstand, could you please now clear the road? Please clear the road on the side of the course, on the grandstand side of the course, as there will now be vehicles going up and down. Thank you. We now progress to the 3rd repechage of the schoolboy single scull. Race number 346 on our programme. Important to say the race number because some of our volunteers don't know anything about rowing and they're following our commentary by looking at the race numbers. So, schoolboy single scull, repechage number 3. We have Keen Munster of Somerset College in lane 1, Joshua Donchak of Brisbane State High in lane 2, Jack Nilsson of St Ignatius of South Australia in lane 3, Isaac Game of Anglican Church Grammar School in lane 4. Chris McGuinness Terry of Guildford has scratched from lane 5, leaving Torben Ungemach of St Augustine's College, New South Wales in lane 6, George Neary of St Peter's College, South Australia in lane 7, and Hamish Johnston of Hutchins of Tasmania in lane 8.
And it is Isaac Game from the Anglican Church Grammar School, Churchy in Brisbane, who leads this race, and he's had about 5 seconds at halfway out to 8.62 seconds. Isaac Game, who sat in the bow seat of the Churchy 8, finished third in the head of the river a couple of weeks ago, but he's well clear here of Torben Ungemach in second place. That's the St Augustine Sculler from here in Sydney, coached by Matthias Ungemach, and then Kian Munster from Somerset College on the Gold Coast would be in third place over on the far side of the course. Jack Nilsson sits fourth for St Ignatius in South Australia. He's coached by George Hammer. Then it's Hamish Johnston from the Hutchins School. George Neary is next from St Peter's in South Australia. Joshua Donchak of Brisbane State High School as well. And just the 7 scullers in this race with that scratching, of course, of the Guildford sculler in lane 5. But Isaac Game from Churchy, the distinctive high-vis orange caps, not to be confused with the volunteer uniforms, of course, of this year's Sydney International Rowing Regatta. But Isaac Game doing a great job out in front here for Churchy. He's got several lengths now back on the rest of the field. St Augustine's Torben Ungemach is still there in second place, who won a silver medal today in the under-19 men's Cox's 4 rowing for the Mossman Club. He's now in the colours of his school, St Augustine's, from here in Sydney. And he will move through, it would seem, to the semi-finals of the schoolboys single scull. But well behind our race leader, Isaac Game from Churchy, very comfortably in front with just a couple of strokes to go. So Isaac Game takes out the third repechage of the schoolboys single scull. He's across now, comfortably first, and second place will be the lane 6 sculler, Torben Ungemach from St Augustine second. Those two qualify for the A and B semi-finals, and then back in third place, it'll be the lane 1 sculler, Kian Munster from Somerset in third, a length or so to the good of Jack Nilsson from St Ignatius in fourth place. Fifth will be lane 8, Hamish Johnson, just ahead of George Neary, and then Joshua Donchak from Brisbane State High School over in lane 2 will finish in 7th place.
Confirming the results of race number 346, the third repechage of the schoolboys single scull. A win for Isaac Game of Anglican Church Grammar School in Queensland. Second, Torben Ungemach of St Augustine's College, New South Wales. Those 2 scullers will progress through to the semi-final. In third, Kian Munster of Somerset College. In fourth, Jack Nilsson of St Ignatius, South Australia. And in fifth, Hamish Johnston of Hutchins of Tasmania. They progressed through to the semi-final for the small finals, I believe. And then the remainder, so I think that is George Neary of St Peter's College and Joshua Donchak of Brisbane State High are now eliminated from the event. Time for that race, 7:33.81, the margin 11.11, so that's our fastest heat so far. Sorry, repechage so far. Yeah, by 7 seconds. That's a good one. Right, on to repechage number 4. And here we have Lachlan Swan in the lead at the 1,000-metre mark. He's representing Trinity Lutheran, and he's in lane 6. Daniel Webb in lane 4, representing Nudgee College, currently sitting in 2nd place. And Bradley Graham over in lane 2, representing Cathedral School of Townsville, is currently in 3rd. The remainder of the field, well, George Gray across on the far side, representing Launceston Church Grammar. Digby Marshall in lane 3, representing Christian Brothers College. Franklin Millington Schwann in lane 5, representing Hobart. Cameron McPherson of St Luke's Anglican in lane 7, and in lane 8, Adam Hunt is representing Wesley.
And at halfway, it was a good race between three scullers across the course. Lane 6, Lachlan Swan of Trinity Lutheran. Lane 4, Daniel Webb of Nudgee College. And lane 2, Bradley Graham from Cathedral Townsville were the top 3. And it appears they still are, as they appear on the screen now, approaching the 1,500 metre mark. And the lane 6 sculler from Trinity Lutheran on the Gold Coast, Lachlan Swan, coached by Andre Pistanik, is our race leader. And it's become fairly comfortable. He's got almost 2 lengths now on the rest of the field. Well, maybe just under that, but 3.78 seconds in any case ahead of Daniel Webb of Nudgee in second place, and Bradley Graham from the Cathedral School in Townsville, lane 2, coached by Stefan Muhlenberg. 3 Queensland scullers in the top 3, but from opposite ends of the state. One from the Gold Coast, one from Brisbane, and one from Townsville in the far north of Queensland. 4th place then is Cameron McPherson, also a Queenslander, in fact, from Bundaberg. So the Sunshine State well represented in the top 4 scullers in this race. Digby Marshall from Christian Brothers College would be 5th. Franklin Millington Schwann from Hobart is in 6th place. And 7th would be Adam Hunt from Wesley College in Melbourne. But it's only 2 to go through. And still it is lane 6, the sculler from Trinity Lutheran, Lachlan Swan, who does remain the comfortable race leader here. He has got a couple of lengths over Daniel Webb, the John Bowes coach sculler from Nudgee College in Brisbane, in 2nd place. And Bradley Graham over there on the far side is 3rd. But at this stage, not making up enough ground on the sculler from Nudgee College to be able to move through into the semi-finals, at least the AB semi-finals, although he is winding up now, the sculler from Cathedral out there in lane 2, as he's only got 100 or so metres to go to make up this ground. But it's the sculler from Trinity Lutheran in lane 6, who remains the comfortable race leader, Lachlan Swan, coached by Andre Pistanik, who's well clear now of the Nudgee sculler Daniel Webb, still there in 2nd, still holding off the challenge from Bradley Graham of the Cathedral School in Townsville. Very close behind them for 4th, 5th and 6th. Digby Marshall probably still just 4th ahead of Franklin Millington Schwann and Cameron McPherson. But the race won by Trinity Lutheran, Lachlan Swan across in 1st place. 2nd goes to Nudgee College, Daniel Webb. 3rd will be Cathedral, Bradley Graham. But only 2 can go through to the A and B semi-finals to race for a place in the A final. 4th place then I think will be lane 3 in a couple of strokes time. Digby Marshall from the Christian Brothers College. 6th will be the lane 7 sculler, Cameron McPherson from St Luke's in Bundaberg. Then lane 5, Franklin Millington Schwann from Hobart. Lane 1, George Gray of Launceston Church Grammar School. And lane 8, Adam Hunt from Wesley.
So the results of our 4th repechage of the schoolboys single scull was a win for Lachlan Swan of Trinity Lutheran. In 2nd position, Daniel Webb of Nudgee College. Those 2 progressed through to the semi-final for the A and B finals. In 3rd position, Bradley Graham of Cathedral. In 4th, Digby Marshall of Christian Brothers College. In 5th, Cameron McPherson of St Luke's Anglican, and they progressed through to the semi-final for these C-finals. In 6th, Franklin Millington Schwann of Hobart. In 7th, George Gray of Launceston Church Grammar, and in 8th, Adam Hunt of Wesley. Time for that repechage, 7 minutes 48.52 seconds, the margin 5.8 seconds. In our final repechage for the schoolboy single scull, this is repechage number 5, we have Thomas Benson of St Ignatius College here in New South Wales in lane 3. Lachlan Donchak of Brisbane State High is in lane 4. Tim Lang of Kingswood College has scratched, and so has Oliver Miller from Sandringham College, who is to be in lane 6. So that leaves Zane Kirk on this side in lane 7. He represents Nudgee College, and Dylan Montero of Wesley College in lane 8. So Thomas Benson representing St Ignatius College. Of course, St Ignatius spectacularly won the schoolboy head of the river last weekend. And Michael Doyle was the coach of the winning crew, and Daniel Noonan is the master in charge of rowing there. So I've just seen Daniel running through the warm-up with Thomas in the warm-up shed on the ergo there, and getting big Nick Pennell from Sydney University Boat Club to go in and do a bit of a rev up. So revved up he seems to be, because he's in the lead.
It certainly worked, it seems. Thomas Benson from St Ignatius, and thank you, Lizzie, for filling me in on my gaps in the New South Wales rowing knowledge. But I believe it was St Ignatius, the first win since 1975.
Yes.
A long time between drinks for St Ignatius, but winning the head of the river this year for the first time in a long time. And Thomas Benson looking to continue the run of success for his school over there in lane 3. He leads this race extremely comfortably. From the sculler next to him, Lachlan Donchak from Brisbane State High School, who'd be in second place. He's coached by Andrew Clatworthy and Desmond Jacobs. And then a big gap, a strange gap in the middle of the field with scratchings in lanes 5 and 6. Over this side, we have the Nudgee College sculler Zane Kirk, who would be in third place, and Wesley's Dylan Montero. So I think to make things easy, they're progressing down the course in lane order, I should say, and with some pretty significant margins across the field. Thomas Benson certainly has gone well clear. 16 seconds he has on Lachlan Donchak, the Brisbane State High School sculler. And then the Nudgee College sculler Zane Kirk, almost 11 seconds further back. And then it will be the Wesley College sculler Dylan Montero in fourth place. Lachlan Donchak, I think, would also have raced in the Brisbane State High School 8 at the Brisbane head of the river. Zane Kirk, I'm not sure he was in the Nudgee crew, not listed in the names I have here of the Nudgee crew that finished in second place, but still coached by John Bowes, the first 8 coach at Nudgee College, who until this year had won 5 straight head of the rivers in Brisbane. The Southport School took out the honours this year for the first time since 2006, so a 12-year wait, not nearly as long as the St Ignatius Riverview gap of, 43 years between head of the rivers for the crew. That includes our race leader here, Thomas Benson of St Ignatius, coached by Michael Doyle and Daniel Noonan, doing it very, very easily indeed out there on the far side of the Sydney International Regatta Centre. Donchak from State High still second. His 10-second margin over third has shrunk a fair bit in the last couple of 100 metres. But not so much at this stage that he needs to be overly worried about Zane Kirk from Nudgee College, who still sits a couple of lengths behind him, but is certainly closing the gap, but might be soon about to run out of water to make his charge. But no such issues for Thomas Benson of St Ignatius. Across the line he goes now to win the 5th and final repechage of the schoolboys single scull. I think that's the slowest time of the 5 repechages, but also the biggest winning margin. So he was unchallenged over most of that race. Second place, it will be the Brisbane State High School sculler in lane 4. He's still got a few strokes to go. So a big win indeed to Thomas Benson, but second place will do the job for Lachlan Donchak, through to the semi-finals as well. Third is the Nudgee College sculler Zane Kirk. And then fourth place on the inside from Wesley College. Dylan Montero will be across the line soon to conclude this race and conclude the 5 repechages of the schoolboys single scull.
So the results of our 5th and final repechage of the schoolboys single scull, race number 348 on the programme, was a commanding win for Thomas Benson of St Ignatius College, New South Wales. In second, Lachlan Donchak of Brisbane State High School. Those 2 scullers will progress through to the semi-final. In third, Zane Kirk of Nudgee College, and in fourth, Dylan Montero of Wesley. The winning time for Thomas Benson, 7 minutes 57.8 seconds. The margin, 22.3 seconds. That was a commanding win, wasn't it?
Yeah, big win indeed for Thomas Benson. 22 seconds, by far the biggest winning margin of those 5 repechages. It was the slowest time, 7:57. The quickest time of the qualifiers was Churchy's Isaac Game from the 3rd repechage in just under 7:34. But he only won by 11 seconds. Thomas Benson, 22 seconds clear. So a couple of scullers to watch out for in the semi-finals, you would think, of the schoolboy single scull tomorrow.
Indeed, exciting stuff coming up. Well, the next 3 repechages that had originally been scheduled, no need for them to re-race. So we've got a slight gap. And as you can see, it looks a little bit rainy out there. The rain is now closing in and the wind has lifted a bit. Perfect opportunity for you to get under cover, have a nice hot cup of tea, I would say. But also, if you wouldn't mind, please, clearing the road, because there will be vehicles on the road shortly testing out the cameras, ready for this weekend's live stream. So if you can hear me down there by the timing huts, if you could please make sure you start to move towards the side of the road, we'd be most grateful, or get off the road and get under cover before the rain really comes.
Sydney, surrounded by pristine national parks, riverways, stunning water views, iconic beaches, and coastal walks from the north to the south, all with the beautiful harbour at its heart. You'll love every second of Sydney. Discover more at sydney.com.
What's around Penrith? Lucas, you got anything?
Maybe in Sydney, like the Opera House and the Harbour Bridge and stuff.
We've got some really good tourist attractions. We've got a lot of things that are unique.
Go to the beach.
There's a wet mountain in Sydney, which would be good to cool off.
There is wakeboarding around, like about 5 minutes from here. I've seen that a few times.
There's also some aqua golf, which is just golf when you're trying to hit targets in the water. I don't know, maybe try it out.
Have a beer at the London Tavern in Balmain. That's not bad.
Carried out of the boat shed, we turn it over and the light comes on automatically. They're velcroed to the deck, they're watertight, waterproof I should say. rechargeable batteries. They're very good. The most important is the waterproof. You get the 3 months on the water 3 nights a week, 3 mornings a week, 4 mornings a week before you have to recharge them. They're light sensitive, so go out in the morning, the sun comes up, the lights go off. I think you'll find they're very, very successful. Yeah. So I'll introduce you to our new frog light.
Well, racing resumes with race number 352 on the programme, which is the first repechage of the schoolgirls Coxed 4. In lane 2, Lauriston Girls' School with Zoe Gelbart, Freddie Donnelly, Alana Hayes-Chen and Carmen Umbers, coxed by Phoebe Barrett. Their coach is Michael Norton. In lane 3, Shelford Girls' Grammar School with Clancy Grant, Eliza Jagger, Rachel Lendon and Frankie Morgan, coxed by Anna McConville and coached by Julian Whitehead. In lane 4, Damascus, Gemma Smith, Millicent Hockey, Erin Gore and Charlotte Ashley, coxed by Maddie Lamb. That crew is coached by Simon O'Brien and Sharon Waters. In lane 5, Ballarat Grammar with Jessica Mahoney, Isabella Conheddy, Cecilia Hearn and Sophie Reiner, coxed by Harriet Jones, coached by Bill Gribble and Sam Pullin. In lane 6 from Seymour College, India Witten, Gabby Huxtable, Jocelyn Kelly and Georgia Myers, coxed by Elise Myatt and coached by Eleanor Wilson. And in lane 7, Melbourne Girls College, Claudia Jung, Catesy Fitzsimmons, Lara Davey and Annie Coleman, coxed by Alice Clayton. And that crew is coached by Paul Blanchfield.
Perfect timing, Lizzie. They are just underway in repechage 1 of the Schoolgirls Cox 4. The first of 2 repechages. Saw the heats of this race late yesterday afternoon. And from this race, the top 2 in each will progress through straight to the final, the A final only in the Schoolgirls Cox 4. So 2 from this race, 2 from the next, along with our 2 heat winners from yesterday. And as it's worked out, a first repechage stacked with Victorian crews. 1 representative from South Australia in Seymour College. The other 5 crews in the race, either from Melbourne or 2 from Ballarat, Damascus, and also Ballarat Grammar in the centre lanes. So they're away well through the first couple of 100 metres now. Of course, the results are seeded based on yesterday's heat, so you'd expect the middle lanes to be the crews showing out in the early stages. That's Ballarat Grammar in 5 and Damascus in 4 in this race, the 2 Ballarat schools. If I recall correctly, they came through a heat that also included Ballarat, Clarendon and possibly St Patrick's also in the Battle of the Ballarat schools yesterday. So 2 going straight through to the final and 2 more to try and come through from this first repechage. But certainly fairly close between our top few schools. You can see lane 5 there. Ballarat Grammar certainly a bit of a margin on Damascus alongside them. Shelford over in lane 3 at the Blue Blades are probably our leading crew. They are indeed by 2/3 of a length, in fact, or 2.26 seconds, the Shelford Girls Grammar School combination. Lane 3 from Ballarat Grammar in lane 5 and Damascus lane 6, the other Ballarat school, just half a second away from second spot, and the same margin back to Seymour College virtually, 0.57 of a second. Seymour College from South Australia in 4th behind Damascus. Then Melbourne Girls College just over a second further back in 5th place, and Lauriston Girls, also a school from Melbourne, over on the far side of the course, lane 2, sitting in 6th position. So certainly tight between the middle lanes of this race. Shelford Girls Grammar School in 3, Ballarat Grammar 4, and Damascus, Ballarat Grammar 5, in fact, Damascus lane 4 in between those 2 crews. And also Seymour College from South Australia fighting out for 2 spots through to the final of the Schoolgirls Cox 4. So the Shelford crew is Clancy Grant, Eliza Jagger, Rachel Lendon, Frankie Morgan, and Anna McConville is the Cox. Julian Whitehead, the coach of that crew from Shelford, still looking, well, certainly to have the edge on Damascus alongside them, lane 4. Just out of shot at the moment is Ballarat Grammar. Their bow appearing there now, and they would still, you would think, be in second place, ahead of Damascus, but still behind Shelford, our race leaders, who had 2.25 seconds after 500 metres of the race. We'll see shortly what it is as they approach the half-distance mark once they've gone through 1,000 metres. So Shelford from Melbourne, Ballarat Grammar and Damascus College from Ballarat, our top 3 in this race. The first repechage of 2 in the Schoolgirls Cox 4, and just 2 to go through to the A final from this race. As they come up to the 1,000, it'll virtually be a dead heat, in fact, between the top 2. Shelford still just in front, but Ballarat Grammar 0.7 of a second now further back. So they've moved through strongly over the second 500. The crew from Ballarat Grammar. Shelford first, 3:52.79, but 0.7 to Ballarat Grammar. So over 3 seconds now, 3.25 seconds almost to Damascus, who are third, and they've stretched out to 4.61 ahead of Seymour College. 2.5 seconds further back, Melbourne Girls College, and over 10 seconds to Lauriston over on the far side of the course. So it remains the centre lanes where the serious racing's happening. Shelford have led so far through the 1,000 metres. Ballarat Grammar giving chase in a very serious way. The crew of Jessica Mahoney, Isabella Canhede, Cecilia Hearn, Sophie Rainier and Harriet Jones, coached by Bill Gribble and Sam Pullen. And in between those 2, the other Ballarat crew from Damascus, Gemma Smith, Millicent Hockey, Erin Gore, Charlotte Ashley, Maddie Lamb is the Cox. The coaches Simon O'Brien and Sharon Waters. But Shelford Girls Grammar School, lane 3, the longer this race progresses, seem to be continuing to hold that lead, although Ballarat Grammar, a couple of lanes across from them in lane 5, are certainly not too far off the pace. So it remains the top two, both looking set to move through with a comfortable margin back over Damascus, then in third place. Ballarat Grammar and Shelford Girls Grammar School from Melbourne. They're approaching the 1,500 metre mark now. The Blue Blades of the Shelford crew are the ones further away from the camera across towards the far side of the Sydney International Regatta Centre. And Ballarat Grammar closest to the camera there, racing in lane 5, and it's still very close between those two. I think Ballarat Grammar with a slight advantage now. They were down by 0.7 at halfway, but they have turned that into what will be a very narrow lead at the 1,500 metre mark. Ballarat Grammar by just over half a second now. In 5:55.25, the time for Ballarat Grammar, 0.52 back to Shelford in third place, and Damascus in between those two crews. The only crew that you'd think could upset our top two at this stage. They're almost 2.5 seconds away in third place. Then well back to Seymour College, almost 12 seconds the margin there. Melbourne Girls College on the grandstand side are 5th, and over on the far side of the course, Lauriston Girls it is in 6th position. So first and second only to go through to the final of the Schoolgirls Cox 4. It'll be one of the final races of the school regatta on Sunday morning, the final day of this regatta prior to the interstate regatta on Sunday afternoon. And it looks like both Shelford Girls Grammar School and Ballarat Grammar will race on that day, although Damascus College now getting going there in between these leading two crews. It's getting a bit messy in the Shelford crew. In fact, I think something may have happened in that boat. They are looking quite out of time, and the other crews going past them, it seems. Certainly Ballarat Grammar lane 5 have assumed the race lead, and Damascus from Ballarat 2 racing hard alongside that crew, and Shelford Girls Grammar School just seem able to respond to the challenge. I'm not sure if there was an equipment issue or just the other crews were too powerful as they went past, but it certainly now is the two Ballarat schools in the centre lane. Ballarat Grammar in 5 and Damascus lane 4 have just about claimed the race lead here. From third place with 500 metres to go, they now look almost certain to race in the A final of the Schoolgirls Cox 4. A powerful finish from Damascus on lane 4. They have their bow narrowly ahead of Ballarat Grammar beside them in lane 5. Still a few strokes to go for these top two crews, but they will go through in first and second place, and Damascus will win it by about half a length on the line. Damascus first, Ballarat Grammar second, Shelford Girls Grammar School in third place after leading for most of the race, and then in fourth it will be lane 6, the crew from Seymour College ahead of Melbourne Girls College, and also Lauriston Girls in lane 2.
In our first repechage of the Schoolgirls Cox 4, race number 352 on the programme, it was a win for Damascus. In second position, Ballarat Grammar. Those two crews will progress through to the final, race number 467. In third, Shelford Girls Grammar. In fourth, Seymour College. In fifth, Melbourne Girls College. And in sixth, Lauriston Girls will now be eliminated from the event. The winning time, 7 minutes, 53.34 seconds. The margin, 1.24. In repechage number 2 of the Schoolgirls Cox 4, we have Friends in lane 2, Lauriston Girls in lane 3. A Ballarat Clarendon crew, stroked by Phoebe Cameron in lane 4, Roseville College in lane 5, Pymble Ladies College in lane 6, and Ballarat Clarendon crew, stroked by Zoe Cowan in lane 7.
Another crew from Lauriston Girls in this second repechage of the Schoolgirls Cox 4, along with two crews from the Ballarat Clarendon College, lanes 4 and 7. But it was Lauriston, lane 3, our race leaders, and Roseville from Sydney in second place at this stage, 3.5 seconds off the pace of our race leaders. So Lauriston first, Roseville second. They've got about a second on Ballarat Clarendon in third place. It's the first of two Ballarat-Clarendon combinations. Lane 4 it is there in the centre of the course, sitting third. The Friends School are fourth, Pymble Ladies fifth, and Ballarat-Clarendon lane 7 on the grandstand side of the course, sitting there in fourth place. But Lauriston Girls and Roseville at this stage sit in the two qualifying spots. The crew to watch over the final third of this race would be Ballarat-Clarendon lane 4, best place to challenge our top two. Also Pymble Ladies out towards this side, still sitting there in about fourth or so place. Possibly have moved past the Friends School now, but it continues to be Lauriston Girls and Roseville our top two. Pymble Ladies crew, we can see, coached by Kendall Brodie, who's just been selected as the first ever Australian female to cox a male crew as the cox of the Australian Men's 8 that will race in the World Cup regattas later in this year during the European summer. And she's coaching the Pymble Ladies crew, which is probably fourth at this stage, I would think, if that confirmation there of that. But our race leaders, the top two, all important. And it's still Lauriston Girls and Roseville second, and still very little between Roseville and Ballarat-Clarendon. So Lauriston Girls, it is from Melbourne on the far side, or one lane in from the far side. Charlotte Menzies King, Clara Kanhidi, Josie Walpole Walsh, Isabel Honan and Nikita Bulak the Cox, coached by Robert Manning and Charlotte Lawrence. And Roseville lane 5, Josette Pearce, Katie Ashworth, Alex Brown, Georgie McArdle, Sophie Sneed the Cox, Gonzalo Brownies the coach, and the Roseville crew have a challenge approaching in the form of Ballarat-Clarendon lane 4, Yelena Black, Eddie Eppingstall, Emily Richardson, Phoebe Cameron and Afton Whitfield in the Cox seat. The red colours there of Ballarat-Clarendon lane 4 right alongside the Roseville crew. The Sydney School there just still desperately hanging on to second spot. Well behind our race leaders from Lauriston Girls of Melbourne, who've got over a length now and just over 100 or so metres to race. Ballarat-Clarendon finishing quickly down lane 4, at Roseville still desperately hanging on by maybe a third of a length or so at this stage. So still the best part of 100 metres to row for those crews fighting out for second and third. Two only to move through to the A final of the Schoolgirls Cox 4. You can pencil in Lauriston Girls lane 3 to take the win and one of those two spots, and the Roseville crew challenged but not conquered here over the closing strokes. They are holding on by about a third of a length as Lauriston Girls take the win and Roseville hang on for second place. Ballarat-Clarendon lane 4 just back in third after a very strong finish indeed. Fourth place, the bow numberless Pymble Ladies College crew. Fifth place, also the bow numberless crew from Friends on the far side. And sixth place, the bow numberless crew from Ballarat-Clarendon, who should have a 7 on their bow. The lane 7 crew finishing in sixth place.
Well, the results of that very exciting second repechage of the Schoolgirls coxed for a win for Lauriston Girls, and in second, Roseville College. Those two crews progressed through to the final. In third, Ballarat-Clarendon. In fourth, Pymble Ladies. In fifth, Friends. And in sixth, Ballarat-Clarendon, get my teeth in, and unfortunately those crews are now eliminated from the event. The winning time for Lauriston Girls, 7 minutes 57.55. That compares with 7 minutes 53 in the previous repechage, and the margin was 3.37. We now move to schoolboys coxed fours, and Here we have heats with the progression of the first two to go through directly to the final and the remainder to a repechage. In lane 2 of our first heat, Melbourne High. In lane 3, Ballarat High. In lane 4, Ballarat Clarendon. In lane 5, Newington. In lane 6, Rockhampton Grammar. And in lane 7, Somerset College.
Yeah, Somerset College from the Gold Coast there in lane 7. At halfway to make it easy, they were coming down in perfect lane order. And at this stage at 1500, still the same thing. The leader on the far side, the crew from Melbourne High. Alongside them, Ballarat High would be second. Ballarat Clarendon third, Newington fourth, Rockhampton Grammar School fifth, and Somerset College sixth. So 1 to 6 down the page at this stage. The 6 crews on the course with just 2 to go through to the A final of the Schoolboys Cox 4. And Melbourne High have a commanding lead here with about 300 metres now to race. The crew of Jotam Brotman, Gavril Gurovic, John Polinak, Connor Knight, and Philip Tran, the Cox, coached by Dylan Curnow and Paul McGann. And then second place, the first of 2 Ballarat crews. Ballarat High, it is this time Lachlan Murfitt, Tyler Loader, Osborne Willison, Noah Mullane, Evan McCauley, the Cox, James Walk, the coach of the Ballarat High crew. Next to them, Ballarat Clarendon in third place, then Newington fourth, Rockhampton Grammar School fifth, and Somerset College in sixth place. But they continue on into the finish area here in still perfect lane order across the course, and it's going to be a very easy win, I would think, to Melbourne High in about 100 or so metres time. Ballarat High doing just enough to stay clear of Ballarat Clarendon and also Newington. 2 only to go through. Ballarat Clarendon are trying desperately to pull back on the crew that trains with them on Lake Wendouree from Ballarat High, but it appears they've left their run a little bit too late. And Melbourne High will get the win across in lane 2. Melbourne High first by 2 lengths from Ballarat High in lane 3. Followed home again, still in perfect precision order. Ballarat Clarendon third, Newington fourth, Rockhampton Grammar fifth, and Somerset College in sixth place.
Confirming the results of our first heat of the Schoolboys Cox 4, a win for Melbourne High. Second, Ballarat High. Third, Ballarat Clarendon. Fourth, Newington. Fifth, Rockhampton Grammar. Sixth, Somerset College. The first 2, Melbourne High and Ballarat High, will progress through to the final, and the remainder will now progress to a repechage. Winning time 6 minutes 55.02 seconds. The margin 6.26. We now move to the second heat of the Schoolboys Cox 4. In lane 2, St Patrick's College from Victoria. In lane 3, St Joseph's from New South Wales. In lane 4, Scotch Oakburn. In lane 5, Hutchins from Tasmania. In lane 6, Newington from New South Wales. And in lane 7, Ballarat Grammar.
A couple of Tasmanian schools in the centre lanes here, Scotch Oakburn and Hutchins, but the lead at the 500 metre mark and indeed at the 1,000 metre mark as well as with St Patrick's College from Ballarat over on the far side of the course. St Patrick's, Connor Shug, Regan Champley, James Crilly, Hamish Crawley, coxed by Jackson Long and coached by Brendan Scott, leading Newington in second place. The crew of Richmond Sear, Luca Roncolato, Alexander Potter and Harry Crouch, who represented Australia last year in the junior quad, coxed by Charlie Nicholas. Newington there in second place, about 1.5 seconds off the pace. Then Hutchins, the better placed of the 2 Tasmanian crews, 2.37 seconds back in third place. Ballarat Grammar fourth. Scotch Oakburn from Launceston in 5th place, and St Joseph's, lane 3, would be in 6th position. And looking for the top 2 once again from this second heat, second of 2 heats in the Schoolboys Cox 4. Top 2 to go through to the A final, and the remainder will race in a repechage. They are the opening heats of this event, the Schoolboys Cox 4. So the first time we've seen these crews on the water at the 2018 Aon Sydney International Rowing Regatta. Sort out 2 crews directly through to the final, and then the remainder to get a second chance in the repechage, along with the crews from the previous race that missed out on the top 2 spots. So our race leaders still over the far side are St Patrick's College from Ballarat, and they've got a pretty comfortable lead, just over a length, 3.1 seconds. And then Newington, second place, have 3.62 seconds over Hutchins in third place. Newington and Hutchins side by side, lanes 6 and 5. So the leading crew from Newington having a good look, I'm sure, at that Hutchins crew and just doing enough to remain in second place. Fourth then Ballarat Grammar on the grandstand side in lane 7. And the 2 crews then in the centre lanes, Scotch Oakburn in 4 and St Joseph's across, in fact, in lane 3. It would be very close between those 2 at the tail of the field. And in fact, maybe St Joseph's moving up alongside Scotch Oakburn now. But still St Patrick's on the far side, our race leaders. Hutchins from Tasmania looking to move up onto Newington. The value in top 2 here is a day off tomorrow. Progress straight through to the A final. Not have to race again till Sunday morning, whereas the rest of these crews will have to go through an extra round of racing tomorrow. So we'll see how Newington and Hutchins go over the final strokes. Here's still Newington second, but that margin closing with every stroke, it seems. The Hutchins school really having a good go at Newington, who are responding in kind. And in doing so, those 2 crews have cut back the lead of St Patrick's on the far side as well a little bit. But St Patrick's still fairly comfortable in first place behind their stroke Hamish Crawley, who's just controlling the pace of the race. They're clear by still the best part of a length or so, and Newington doing just enough, it would seem, to hang on to second place by about half a length as they approach the line. St Patrick's get the win, Newington second, Hutchins will be third and have to qualify via the repechage if they're to make the A final of the Schoolboys Cox 4. And a couple of lengths further back, lane 7 Ballarat Grammar will finish in 4th place, and it's still close for 5th and 6th. Lane 4 will get it, Scotch Oakburn 5th, and then lane 3 St Joseph's in 6th place.
So confirming the second heat of the Schoolboys Cox 4, it was a win for St Patrick's College of Victoria and second Newington College of New South Wales and the New South Wales Institute of Sport. Those 2 crews will progress through to the final. In third, Hutchins. In 4th, Ballarat Grammar. In 5th, Scotch Oakburn. And in 6th, St Joseph's, New South Wales. Those crews now progressing through to the repechage. That was a much faster heat, 6 minutes 49.99 seconds, and the margin just 2.78. Well, we now have schoolgirl 8s on the course. We're starting off with race number 356, heat 1 of the under-17 schoolgirls Cox 8. In lane 2, Somerville. In lane 3, PLC Perth. In lane 4, Loretto Normanhurst. In lane 5, Kinross Walleroy. In lane 6, MLCQ. In lane 7, Loretto Kirribilli. And in lane 8, Pymble Ladies College, New South Wales.
First appearance of the course here of the under-17 schoolgirl 8s. Racing in 2 heats to decide the first couple of finalists, first and second in each of these heats, straight through to Sunday morning's final. The remainder to race in the repechage from the next 2 races. At 500 metres, it was Loretto Kirribilli, lane 7, who led, but they've been headed by the smallest of margins, 0.08 of a second, to PLC Perth now. Our race leaders over in lane 3, just from Loretto Kirribilli, lane 7. And in between those 2, about 2 seconds further back, sits Kinross Walleroy, who've been third through most of this race. I've opened up a length or so then on MLCQ, Pymble Ladies, Somerville House, and also Loretto Normanhurst in lane 4. So they're spread out across the course. These are the opening heats of this event too. So crews effectively randomly allocated to heats and 2 lanes. And to make things a bit more interesting from here, we've got leaders on virtually opposite sides of the course. PLC Perth across in lane 3, the crew of Rebecca Gunsberg, Georgia Kestel, Maddie Marley, Brenna Orrick, Samantha Dakin, Jess Vinicum, Isabella Ahern, Abby Webber, coxed by Tara Rogers and coached by David Milne. And then Loretto Kirribilli from Sydney, 1 in from the grandstand side, lane 7. Emma Green, Zoe Graham, Charlotte Tiffin, Lily Eels, Emma Winneray, Abigail Van Vliet, Isabel Marr, Josephine McDougall, coxed by Teresa Harris, coached by Lachlan Allen and Tess Dixon. And those two certainly still our leading crews. That distinctively coloured bright blue boat you can see on screen is the lane 5 combination, is it there, from Kinross Walleroy. But still over towards the far side. PLC Perth do look to be our leading crew. They are in the white boat furthest away from the camera there. Kinross Walleroy in between, and Loretto Kirribilli, the dark blue boat with the number 7 bow number on top, and still not much between these two. PLC Perth have extended their lead slightly from 0.08 to 0.70 at 1,500 metres, so very little has changed over that third 500 metres. And these two crews remain to fight it out over the final quarter of this race now, but both well placed to move through directly to the A final. Kinross Walleroy a third as they've been throughout the race, but still about 2.5 seconds off the pace. That's the crew of Bridget Longley, Georgie Poole, Isabella Scammell, Bridget Yeomans, Charlie Harding, Phoebe Lamp, Olivia Hilda, Lucy Jenkins, coxed by Jetta Kennett, coached by Zach Lewis, Sinisa Korosak and Gemma Crook. But Kinross Walleroy have some work to do. MLCQ are now up into a clear 4th place and looking to go out after our top 3, but they're still about a length or so at least away from where they need to be at this stage of the race. And it is looking like PLC Perth and Loretto Kirribilli still our top 2. Kinross Walleroy in between are doing their best to pull back into that top 2 position for a direct qualification through to the A final of the schoolgirls under 17-8. And MLCQ too are sticking with them as a big gap then back to Pinball Ladies, Somerville House and Loretto Normanhurst at the tail of the field. But it's PLC Perth in the green colours over on the far side, and Loretto Kirribilli, the dark blue boat, Kinross Walleroy, the light blue boat in between, who have come back strongly in the closing strokes and are not giving up on a top 2 finish by any stretch of the imagination. PLC Perth over on the far side, Loretto Kirribilli, Kinross Walleroy, virtually a line of 3, looking for 2 spots in the A final of the schoolgirls under 17 coxed 8. PLC Perth will get one of those, and Kinross Walleroy I think will snatch the second. PLC first, Kinross second, third goes to lane 7, Loretto Kirribilli. 4th then will be MLC from Q. 5th place I think will be lane 8, that's Pinball Ladies or Somerville House on the far side. And then it will be Loretto Normanhurst in 7th place as the last couple of crews come home. Got some great racing in the opening 8th race of this afternoon, the first heat of the under 17 schoolgirls 8.
Confirming that first heat of the under-17 schoolgirls coxed 8. A win for PLC Perth and second Kinross Walleroy. So those 2 crews progress through to the final. In 3rd, Loretto Kirribilli, so close. In 4th, MLCQ. In 5th, Pinball Ladies College. And in 6th, Somerville House. In 7th, Loretto Normanhurst. Those crews will now contest the repechage. Winning time for the first heat, 7 minutes, 15.29 seconds, the margins 1.57 and 1.24. We now move to the second heat of the under-17 schoolgirls coxed 8. This is race number 357 on our programme. In lane 2, Queenwood School for Girls here in New South Wales. In lane 3, St Catherine's School, also of New South Wales. In lane 4, Collegiate. In lane 5, Sydney Girls High School. In lane 6, Loretto Track. And in lane 7, Canberra Girls Grammar School.
Another distinctively coloured blue boat there. This time it's the colours of Loretto Turak from Melbourne, but they're in second place at this stage, 1 1/4 seconds behind our race leaders from Queenwood over the far side. So Queenwood first through the 1,000-metre mark in 3:36.72, and just under 1 1/4 seconds back to Loretto Turak in second place. Then Collegiate would be third, ahead of St Catherine's from Sydney. St Catherine's Sydney, not to be confused with St Catherine's Melbourne, who we'll see in a few races' time in the Open at Schoolgirls 8. Canberra Girls Grammar School are 5th, and Sydney Girls are in 6th place. So the Queenwood School on the far side of the course. Across in lane 2 still do look to be the narrow race leaders here. Queenwood, Tiffany Botha, Zoe Keating, Chelsea Prout, Sophie Nell, Chloe Jallett, Sophia Feeling, Ellen Houston, Emily Rouse, and Kate Lawson, the Cox, coached by Ray Boyle and Charlie Rose Iron. And then right back over this side, one in from the far side is the crew from Loretto Turak, definitely clear of the lanes surrounding them. That's Mia O'Callaghan, Mia Caffrey, Amy Quinlan, Natalie Caldafamo, Anika Davies, Alexandra Desmond, Katarina Bitsios, Sophie O'Connell, coached by Mia Hoffman, coached by Tom Lincoln, Jack Steele and Marty Francis. And Loretto Turak and Queenwood look to have put a fair gap back on the remainder of the field now, possibly St Catherine's from Sydney or Collegiate in lane 4 would be 3rd and 4th. And also on this side, Canberra Girls Grammar School still in contention too for possibly a top 3 finish, but it needs to be top 2 to move through directly to the A final and have the day off from racing tomorrow. And still it's Queenwood just from Loretto Turak as they come through 1,500 metres now. Queenwood by around about half a length it was. 1.84 seconds in fact. Queenwood 5:29.43 their time to 1,500. Loretto Turak 1.84 seconds further back, and a big margin then back to, it is indeed Canberra Girls Grammar School who've moved up into 3rd place. Ashley Burns, Madeline McGuinness, Jenna Order, Alice Maxwell, Georgina Wallace, Grace Turner, Anna Khan, Harriet Wallace and Izzy Shaw, the Cox, coached by Carolyn Pipers, Jodie Groothoff and Avril Baker on the grandstand side of the course, narrowly from Collegiate by less than half a second, and then about 5 seconds back to St Catherine's Sydney in lane 3, ahead also of the Sydney Girls School in lane 5. But it is Queenwood and Loretto Turak, our clear top 2. Queenwood, Loretto Turak, Canberra Girls Grammar School, Collegiate, lane 4. We understand it's the St Michael's Collegiate School from Tasmania. In fact, thank you, Lizzie, for looking that one up during the race. St Michael's Collegiate over there in lane 4, but back in 5th at this stage, behind St Catherine's Sydney, who'd be 4th, and still there as well, Sydney Girls in 6th position. But it's a race for the top 2, and Loretto Turak have moved up very close now to our all-the-way leaders from Queenwood. They may just about have got past, in fact, the bright blue boat close to the grandstand side from the grey boat of Queenwood over on the far side of the course. Queenwood seem comfortable to stay in a top 2 place. They're not too concerned about going for the win, and Loretto Turak have just about gone past them now with a few strokes to row. So Loretto Turak lane 6, Queenwood lane 2, about a 1/3 of a length between them as they go to the line, and Loretto Turak will take out the second heat of the under-17 Schoolgirls Cox State. Loretto first, Queenwood second, straight through to the final go those 2 crews. Very close for 3rd place as well. Lane 7 will get it. Canberra Girls Grammar School from St Catherine's and St Michael's Collegiate in 5th place, and 6th will go to Sydney Girls on lane 5.
With our final crew crossing the line, we can bring you the results for Heat 2 of the Under-17 Schoolgirls Cox State. It was a win for Loretto Turak. In second, Queenwood School, and those 2 crews progressed directly through to the final. In third, Canberra Girls Grammar School. In 4th, St Catherine's School. In 5th, Collegiate. In 6th, Sydney Girls High. Those crews will now progress to the repechage. The winning time, 7 minutes 21.45 seconds. The margin 1.76. If you can see the screen, you can also see that we're now moving to sculling and schoolgirls coxed quad sculls, where we have 2 repechages, with the first 2 of each repechage progressing through to the semi-final. The remainder to the C-final. In lane 2, Loretto Normanhurst. In lane 3, Loretto Marriattville. In lane 4, Strathcona. In lane 5, Radford College. In lane 6, Somerville House. And in lane 7, PLC Sydney.
The Loretto's everywhere at this stage. Loretto Toorak winning the previous race. Loretto Normanhurst and Loretto Marriattville both in the current race. 3:58, the first repechage of 2 in the schoolgirls Cox Quad Scull. These crews raced heats yesterday afternoon. Some crews went straight through to the semis and the remainder getting a second chance this time around. And Loretto Marriattville, it would be in lane 3 making the best of that second chance. As they approach the 1,500 metre mark, the crew of Laura Cook, Noni McCallum, Lucy Smith, Georgina Berry and Maddie Paisley, the Cox, coached by Tom Dornbos, would be the leading crew. Loretto Marriattville from Adelaide, who are leaders at 500. Only narrow leaders at the 1,000 by about half a second, and it's not going to be much more than that here either now at 1,500 as they go through with a narrow lead from Radford College. 1.21 seconds it is with 500 metres to race from Radford College, the crew from the Australian Capital Territory there in second place. Alison Barclay, Thea Buckman, Maddie Dine, Natasha Erb and Samantha Blake, the Cox, coached by Charlotte Cross. Liz Kell, the Australian Olympian, and Vicky Spencer as well, coaching there at Radford College in the ACT. Strathcona from Melbourne are in 3rd place, 3 seconds further behind. Then Loretto Normanhurst from Sydney, 8 seconds back. Somerville House from Brisbane, another 5.5 seconds off the pace. And PLC Sydney at the tail of the field in 6th place at this stage of the race. So just 2 to go through to the semi-final. Remaining 4 crews to race in the C-final of the schoolgirls Cox Quad Scull. So Loretto Marriattville looking fairly comfortable. And Radford College not too far behind them, and neither is Strathcona in between our leading 2 crews. That's Ella Plant, Jess Charles, Caitlin Jones, Izzy Dodonka and Rebecca Furlan in the Cox seat. Izzy Dyker, the coach of that Strathcona crew, and the predominantly yellow colours coming through between our 2 race leaders, the blue of Loretto Marriattville, the crew from Adelaide, over towards the far side. And the darker colours on this side, lane 5, Radford College, still holding off Strathcona, but only just. The top 3 have gone well clear. Then it's probably Loretto Normanhurst from Somerville House and also PLC Sydney. But again, we're seeing a situation where 3 into 2 does not go. They're racing for spots in the semi-finals of the schoolgirls Cox Quad Scull in this second chance repechage. Loretto Marriattville look to have 1 spot virtually sewn up. Strathcona coming home on Radford College beside them in the race for 2nd and 3rd. Strathcona moving slightly faster, but still some ground to make up. Loretto Marriattville clear by almost a length. They will get the win, and Radford College, I think, will just hold on. They do. Loretto Marriattville first, Radford College second. A canvas in it ahead of Strathcona. A brave finish indeed from them, but coming up just short in 3rd place. 4th will be lane 2. The crew from Loretto Normanhurst over on the far side. Then the green boat of Somerville House will finish in 5th place. And lane 7, PLC Sydney, will finish in 6th.
And the results of our first repechage of the schoolgirls Cox Quad Scull was a win for Loretto Marriattville. Second, Radford College. Those 2 crews progressed through to the semi-final. 3rd, Strathcona. 4th, Loretto Normanhurst. 5th, Somerville House. 6th, PLC Sydney. Those crews now progress to the C-final. The winning time, 7 minutes, 56.44 seconds. The margin, 2.13. Strathcona missing out by 0.42. Very close indeed. We wish them well in the C final. And we move now to the second repechage of the schoolgirls Coxed Quad Scull. In lane 2, PLC Sydney. In lane 3, Shelford Girls Grammar. In lane 4, Redlands. In lane 5, MLCQ. And in lane 6, Corowa Anglican Girls.
Just past the halfway mark, Redlands, our race leaders at that point of the race. They're a couple of hundred metres through there now. They had a half-second lead or just under that from PLC Sydney in second place. Corowa third, MLCQ fourth, and Shelford Girls Grammar School in fifth place. So 2 Sydney schools sitting first and second, and 3 Melbourne schools after that. If anyone from Corowa was still listening, I think I claimed yesterday their school was actually in the Dandenongs, but of course Corowa is in Glen Iris in the relatively inner suburbs of Melbourne. So apologies to Corowa, but very much one of the biggest schools in the Melbourne rowing program, and plenty of rowers here at the Nationals as well. Probably sitting still in third place at this stage, the crew there over in lane 6, but very much a chance of a top 2 finish. In the centre lane, Redlands still do look to be our race leaders. We'll get a look at the timing as they come through here. And in fact, it's PLC Sydney on the far side who've gone clear by almost half a length, it would be. 1.77 seconds from Redlands still there in second place. And Corowa a bit over a boat length, 3 1/3 seconds back in third place ahead of MLCQ and also Shelford Girls Grammar School. But PLC Sydney on the far side, Esther Rutherford, Olivia Leckie, Laura Brady, Rahiki Bone, Jasmine Boyd, the Cox, coached by Sarah Ellis, Ashley Pepinell and Jenny Clark. And the centre lane having a good race with Redlands, Chloe Laverty, Zoe Kimber, Maddie Howard, Natasha Barrack, coxed by Tash Richardson, coached by James Petering, Rosanna Herbert and Sky Campbell. And then on this side, the Corowa Anglican Girls School from Glen Iris in Melbourne, Jessica Carson, Ruby Waring, Sarah Manolitsis, Georgia Papasvilio and Holly Manolitsis, the Cox of the Corowa crew. And that Cox has her work cut out to get her crew going a little bit faster still. They need to make up some ground on our top 2, which is still PLC Sydney and also Redlands. About 150 metres or so now to race in this second repechage, the last repechage of the schoolgirls Cox Quad Scull. 2 more spots in the semi-finals on offer. Redlands in the centre lane, I think, have reclaimed the lead from PLC over on the far side, who were first through 1,500. But PLC also under threat from Corowa on this side as well. So these top 3 crews racing for 2 spots once again, but Corowa's still there, probably just third. Need to make up some ground relatively quickly now as they're inside the red boys of the final 100 metres. PLC Sydney on the far side, fighting back with Redlands in the centre, still holding them off by the smallest of margins. PLC still there, but Corowa probably back a little bit too far at this stage now. It looks like the 2 Sydney schools will be the ones to go through. In lane 4, the narrow leaders still Redlands by only a canvas or so from PLC Sydney as they go across. Redlands the win, PLC second. They'll both go through to the semi-finals, just over a length back to Corowa lane 6 in third position. Fourth then goes to lane 5. The crew from MLCQ in Melbourne, and Shelford Girls Grammar School in lane 3 still to complete the race, and they'll be across soon in 5th place.
Well, another close finish between first and second for our second repechage of the schoolgirls Coxed Quad Scull. But it was a win for Redlands and second PLC Sydney. Those 2 crews progressed through to the semi-final. In third, Corowa Anglican Girls. In fourth, MLCQ. And in 5th, Shelford Girls Grammar School. The winning time, 7 minutes 59.94 seconds, and the margin in this one, 0.76. Crews through 3 through to 5, progressing through now to the C final. And on to schoolboys Coxed Quad Sculls. We have a repechage where the first 4 will progress through to the semi-final and the remainder to a C final. In lane 3, Wesley. In lane 4, Cardinia International College. In lane 5, Cranbrook. In lane 6, Cathedral from Townsville. And in lane 7, another crew from Wesley.
We've reached race 360. It's actually the 3rd last race of the day. on day 5 of the 2018 Aon Sydney International Regatta. And there's 2 races to come after this, the 2 heats of the Schoolgirls Coxed 8. But for now, it's the sole repechage of the Schoolboys Coxed Quad. And with just 5 crews in the race, 4 to move through to the semi-finals. And the last place crew only to miss out and race in the C final. Certainly Cranbrook, the comfortable race leaders at halfway. They look to still be there now over Cathedral Townsville. So that's Cranbrook in 5, Cathedral Townsville in 6. And then next best at halfway was the first of 2 Wesley College crews. That's Wesley Lane 3, ahead of the other Wesley crew and also the Cardinia International College. Cranbrook from Sydney continue to be our race leaders through 1,500 metres now, 5:22.72, and they clear by 5.19 seconds from Cathedral Townsville. And Wesley Lane 3, the first of those 2 Wesley College crews. One stroked by Aria Almasi over on the far side. The Cardinia International College in 4th, and Wesley Lane 7, the Toby Miller stroke crew, back in 5th place. And they're the crew at this stage, you would think, they'll be the only ones to miss out on a semi-final spot. They'll race in the C final of the Schoolboys Coxed Quad Scull, unless things change greatly over the closing 250 metres. But the Cranbrook School in front, Maximilian Brown, Stefan O'Neill, Conrad Cluck, Jack McCaffrey and Joshua Abelev. Ahead of the crew beside them in lane 6, the Cathedral School from Townsville, Jordan Applecrin, Liam Hemmett, Kalani Moncrief, James Gamak, Ryan Sparlak, the cock, Stefan Muhlenberg, of course, the coach and long-serving member of that program up in North Queensland. And then Wesley coming home fairly strongly as well on the far side. Jeremy Isherwood, Todd Koppler, Josh Woodcock, Aria Almasi and James Fowler, the cocks there in 3rd place. It is Wesley from Western Australia. We may have been calling them Wesley Melbourne at stages, but it is Wesley from Western Australia, these 2 crews in the race, 3rd and probably 5th at this stage. The race will be won by Cranbrook in a couple of strokes' time. As lane 5 approaches the finish, so Cranbrook get the win and go through to the semi-finals, along with Cathedral in 2nd place. Wesley from Western Australia, lane 3, will take out 3rd. 4th place then will be the Cardinia International College from Geelong in Victoria. And 5th place, only crew to miss out on the semis. They'll go to the C final. That's Wesley College, again from Western Australia, racing in lane 7.
Confirming the results of the repechage of the Schoolboys Coxed Quad Scull, a win for Cranbrook. 2nd, Cathedral from Townsville. 3rd, Wesley from Western Australia. And 4th, Cardinia International College. Those 4 crews will progress through to the semi-final. And in 5th, Wesley, they will progress through to the C final. The time for Cranbrook, 7 minutes, 11.27 seconds, and the margin 3.97. Race number 361 is on the course, and that is the first heat of the Schoolgirls Coxed 8. The first 2 to progress through to the final and the remainder to a repechage. In lane 1, MLCQ. In lane 2, Scotch College from Adelaide. In lane 3, St Michael's Collegiate. In lane 4, St Catherine's School from Victoria. In lane 5, MLCQ from Victoria. In lane 6, Friends from Tasmania. In lane 7, MLC School from Sydney. And in lane 8, St Catherine's School from Victoria.
So they're through the first 500 metres now of the penultimate race of day 5, race 361, the first heat of the Schoolgirls Coxed 8, and it's the St Catherine's School from Melbourne who led, but nothing between it, all 0-point-something margins from 1 down to 6. St Catherine's ahead of Friends. Scotch Adelaide were narrowly 3rd, MLCQ in 4th place and also 5th with 2 crews in the race. St Catherine's also 2 crews in the race, running 1st and 6th St Michael's Collegiate from Tasmania in 7th place in the early stages, and MLC School in lane 7 there as well. So MLC School lane 7, the New South Wales School. MLC Q in lanes 1 and 5 is the Melbourne School of the same name. So 4 crews from Melbourne, 1 from Sydney, a couple from Tasmania, and Scotch College also there from South Australia. As they come up towards the 1,000-metre mark, it does look to be St Catherine's ever so narrowly. That's the St Catherine's combination in lane 8, in fact, closest to the grandstand side of the course, first through the timing point. So St Catherine's in 3:27.71, ahead of MLCQ in 2nd place. These were 2 of the favourites for the head of the schoolgirls title in Geelong last week that unfortunately was called off due to the wind, so the race never held. These 2 schools coming up to race at the Nationals instead, and St Catherine's in lane 8, MLCQ in 5. Our early leaders through halfway now, in fact. Scotch College Adelaide would be 3rd, then the Friends School from Tasmania 4th. MLCQ with their 2nd crew over in lane 1, presumably a 2nd 8 in that boat. St Catherine's 2nd 8 in lane 4 there in 6th place, then St Michael's Collegiate in 7th, and the MLC School from Sydney in 8th place. But it's a race at this stage between 2 well-credentialed Victorian crews over on the grandstand side of the course. St Catherine's lane 8, Sarah Wilson, Juliet Grant, Harriet Dryden, Ali McBain, Annalise Cody, Steph Ferrari, Eleanor Miller, Emily Sutherland, and Liliane Newell the Cox, David Frimano and John Saunders, the coaches of the St Catherine's crew. And then MLC from Q in lane 5, Rebecca Wayne, Scarlett Hannah, Sarah De Ure, Alice Levin, Kate Morrison, Eve Utenbush, Ruby Jalikas, Mabel Lee, Taylor Poon the Cox, Pete Kupsis, the coach of the MLC crew, as they approach the 1,500-metre mark. 1st and 2nd from this heat will move through to the final, so plenty to race for our top 2 schools. The Friends School from Tasmania might be up in 3rd at this stage, then over towards the far side, Scotch College Adelaide possibly 4th as they go through the timing mark now, and MLCQ have taken the lead from St Catherine's by just over a second. So they've turned a similar deficit now into a lead with 500 metres to race. MLCQ lane 5 from St Catherine's in 8. And Scotch College in lane 2, still holding on to 3rd place ahead of the Friends School lane 4. The 2nd crew then of both MLCQ and St Catherine's sit 5th and 6th at this stage. St Michael's Collegiate is 7th over in lane 3. In 8th place, the Sydney crew from the MLC School in lane 7. But it's MLCQ in 5 from Melbourne, and St Catherine's also from Melbourne lane 8. In between those 2, the Friends School sits a couple of lengths away, and the yellow colours still of Scotch Adelaide over on the far side would in fact be 3rd ahead of Friends. And then back in 5th place, it will be those 2nd 8s from both MLC and St Catherine's having a good race of their own over on the far side of the course. But the remainder of these crews will have to go through the repechage to make the final of the Schoolgirls Cox Date, which will be one of the final races of the school regatta on Sunday morning. And MLCQ and St Catherine's will both go through that race, you would think, as 2 of the crews to watch as they're about to record a top 2 placing in the heat. The order yet to be decided. Both St Catherine's and MLC looking to race it right down to the finish line here. Scotch College from Adelaide still there in 3rd ahead of the Friends School in 4th place, then possibly MLC on the far side in 5th as well. But it's MLCQ in lane 5, holding clear now of St Catherine's by a big enough margin, and they'll be able to win this race in a couple of strokes' time. The first heat of the Schoolgirls Cox Date, and almost a length, a neat length in fact, to St Catherine's on the finish line. So St Catherine's lane 5 first, MLC lane 5 first, I should say. St Catherine's lane 8 in 2nd place. 3rd goes to Scotch Adelaide. 4th then is the Friends School. 5th will be MLCQ again over on the far side of the course, lane 1. 6th place will be St Catherine's in lane 4. 7th, the crew from St Michael's Collegiate. And 8th place, the MLC School from Sydney.
As our final crew approaches the line, we can bring you the results of the first heat of the schoolgirls Coxed 8. It was a win for MLCQ in second St Catherine's School of Victoria, and those two will progress through to the final. In third, Scotch College Adelaide. In fourth, Friends. In fifth, MLCQ. In sixth, St Catherine's School Victoria. In seventh, Collegiate Tasmania. And in eighth, MLC School from Burwood in New South Wales. And they will progress through to the repechage. The winning time, 6 minutes 59.55 seconds. On to the second heat of the schoolgirls Coxed 8. Over in lane 1, Walford Anglican from South Australia. In lane 2, Melbourne Girls Grammar. In lane 3, Pymble Ladies College, New South Wales. In lane 4, Loreto Normanhurst, New South Wales. In lane 5, a second Pymble Ladies College crew from New South Wales, the one stroked by Gemma Campbell. In lane 6, PLC Perth. In lane 7, Scotch Oakburn. And in lane 8, Loreto Track.
So heat 2 of the schoolgirls Coxed 8 is through 500 metres. In fact, rapidly heading towards the halfway mark of the race. And it's the three crews, in fact, over on the far side of the Sydney International Regatta Centre that lead the race. Melbourne Girls Grammar School, lane 2, had it by half a second after 500 metres ahead of Walford Anglican, lane 1 in second place. And Pymble Ladies College from Sydney were there in third, ahead of PLC Perth and Loreto Turak, but there was about 2.5 seconds between those top 5 schools, so very little between them as they came through the first 500 metres. And it was Loreto Normanhurst, Pymble Ladies and Scotch Oakburn. You can see the moving camera alongside the course there. A reminder, of course, that that will be the vision as we web stream tomorrow and Sunday, every race in the last 2 days of this regatta, and incredibly close between the top 3 there as they go through on the outside lanes. Walford Anglican, the school from South Australia, leading in 3:26.07. If my memory serves me correctly, they were the winners of this race last year, the school from South Australia. Just under 0.7 of a second back to Pymble Ladies from Sydney in second place, and 0.85 then to Melbourne Girls Grammar School, who were third. PLC Perth in lane 6 sit in fourth place, 1.5 seconds clear of Loreto Turak, then 3 seconds to Loreto Normanhurst, another 3 seconds to Pymble Ladies College with 2 crews in this race, and Scotch Oakburn from Launceston in Tasmania well back in 8th place at this stage. Vision coming again from the side of the course, the blue boat of Loreto Turak there in lane 8, currently sitting probably about 5th place, just alongside that PLC Perth crew. But the action's on the far side of the course at this stage. Walford, Melbourne Girls Grammar, and also Pymble Ladies, the 3 crews to watch as we look for the 2 qualifiers through to the final directly of the schoolgirls Coxed 8. The remainder of the field to race a repechage tomorrow, and the final, of course, to take place late on Sunday morning. So Walford Anglican just in front on the far side. Taylor Parker, Kirsty Pennell, Sophie Tickner, Ella Grummett, Sophie Waters, Anya Seed, Lavinia Price, Meg Dewars and Mia Gowland, coached by Georgia Litt. And confirmation via Lizzie Chapman and Google that Walford Anglican are the defending champions, winning last year from Queenwood and Pymble Ladies first and second, and they still lead through 1,500, the crew from Walford Anglican on the far side, but there's still nothing in it. Just over a second now to Pymble Ladies in second place, so the bronze medalists from last year now sitting second in their heat. Phoebe Coles, Mackenzie Penn, Eliza Johnston, Eliza Entwistle, Sophia Carmody, India Thompson, Hannah Westhuizen, Olivia Hunt, Alison Campbell, the cox, Simon Pennington and Jeff Patterson, the coaches. And in between those 2 is Melbourne Girls Grammar School. Charlotte Douglas, Isabella Barclay, Henrietta Roxburgh, Alex Nan, Ella Bennett, Millicent Perkins, Jessica Goff, Cleo Foulkes and Sophie Black in the cox seat of the Melbourne Girls Grammar School crew. On this side of the course, Loreto Turak are coming through fairly strongly. They have moved up past PLC Perth now into 4th place. The crew of Tallulah Frigo, Eliza Doble, Camilla Baxter, Annie Trainer, Emily Mack, Emily Francis, Amelia Warwick, Lauren Grant, Jessica Canning, the cox, coached by Nick Spiro Edwards and Tegan Boughton. And they would be in 4th place, but a little bit away still from our top 3 crews. Walford still the far side, just holding off Pymble Ladies College. So Walford from Adelaide, Pymble Ladies from Sydney, Melbourne Girls Grammar School, and also Loretto Toorak from Melbourne on this side, and PLC Perth. So all the states virtually represented here in the closing stages of the Schoolgirls Cox State second heat, 1 and 2 straight through to the A final. The rest of the race in a repechage, and the defending champions from Walford are just holding on over on the far side from Pymble Ladies, Melbourne Girls Grammar School, Loretto Toorak and PLC Perth still all fighting out for 3rd, 4th and 5th, but it will be Walford Anglican from Adelaide. They're clear by half a length, and they'll win the second heat of the Schoolgirls Cox State and the last race of the day. Second place goes to Pymble Ladies College, also straight through to the final. 3rd, Melbourne Girls Grammar School. 4th, Loretto Toorak. 5th will be PLC Perth. 6th place then, lane 4, the crew from Loretto Normanhurst. 7th, lane 5. That's Pymble Ladies, their second crew on this race. And 8th place will go to the yellow colours of Scotch Oakburn from Launceston, just rowing past the grandstand now.
So the results of Heat 2 of the Schoolgirls Cox State, a win for Walford Anglican of South Australia, who won the entire event last year, and second Pymble Ladies College. And they will progress through to the A final. In 3rd, Melbourne Girls Grammar School from Victoria. In 4th, Loretto Toorak. In 5th, PLC Perth. In 6th, Loretto Normanhurst, New South Wales. In 7th, Pymble Ladies College, stroked by Gemma Campbell. And in 8th, Scotch Oakburn. They will progress through to the repechage. The winning time for the Walford Anglican crew, 7 minutes, 0.05 of a second, and the margin 2.14.